Hi, everyone. Thank you. And, one of the things that I hear a lot every time I speak to publishers of all shapes, sizes, print, digital, whichever mode they are in, is, that there's always a challenge regarding their product stack, right? What are the latest tools they should use? What are the kind of products they should deploy? Which are the right products, which are the right technologies. And I think this is a question that has been a lot of media houses, especially in India. I think internationally maybe there's a higher level of maturity, but especially in India, there are a lot of publishers that really struggle with this. So, we decided to keep this panel, and I'm really happy to have two experts who have done a lot of work over the last 2 decades in this space. And I think they'll bring in different perspectives. And the place I want to start is with Sandeep. And Sandeep, you at Z Digital, at Indian Express Digital, have managed newsrooms and editorial teams. I wanted to come straight to you and ask that what are the major challenges that you see a lot of publishers facing on the tech front today? Because you've run traffic, editorial workflows, decision making on how to do SEO effectively. There's a lot there, right? Subscription tools and so on and so forth. So perhaps if you can just get it started on where do you see the challenges lie?
Okay, so I want to keep it practical and useful for everyone here. And since it's a conference related to magazines, so I'll quickly give a few points and then I'll try and connect the dots. A lot of magazine owners and magazine professionals describe the past as a glorious period for them, that our magazine used to be and this and that. So what we need to understand is the user, when we look at the user, if the user is reading the article on the mobile phone, on iPad, on computer, in a magazine or a New York Times newspaper or a Wall Street newspaper, it is a user is looking at it in a very similar perspective. And today users are moving towards written content plus video or dual screen. If they wake up in India at around 8:30 and they miss the supporting actor Oscar, they have a second screen in hand and they are looking at live Oscars on Disney Hotstar or something like that. So what I request all of you is to first focus on user, how user is looking at the content rather than the manufacturer's era or the era where Henry Ford says, I will make black cars and black cars is what people will buy. So that is the change which most of the publishers want to do, and I feel at some level, due to the business being the media business, ego becomes a big problem. And that is something which we need to get past because we are here to serve the users, rather sermon them. You know what I'm saying? Some people are still confused about these two things. That my system of values, it should be the system of values of the users. Then that's the Henry Ford era of black cars. So first, let's move out of that. Secondly, the choice of technology. Why this is related to the choice of technology, I'll tell you how, we connect these dots. So talent discovery is more important than talent in the modern era. Please note this is a very important thing. If your content is not getting discovered, then that content doesn't have value. Because you cannot blame the reader, and some people are blaming the readers that, we have lesser audiences because they don't have intellect and they don't, they have a problem and we don't have a problem. I think that's a technology problem to solve. Sometimes this problem escalates in a manner that you meet some technology team who says React.js or Next.js is the latest technology and you built a CMS out in that. And soon you give them around 500 crore or 2-3 crore rupees, and then you are held hostage by a technology where you don't understand ABC. Then the ego as a problem can make you feel a little tame in that meeting of technology, asking question, what are you talking about? And in that tameness itself, you buy that technology because you don't understand technology, and most publishers don't. So you have to ask that question, why is React.js the most important technology? What you have to note is in both React.js and Next.js, actually there is no cache for Google. And the Google cache is built out of SSR, which is server-side rendering. And actually there are very big publishers who built a site in React.js and come to us and said, hey Sandeep, there is zero Google traffic because Google has no cache, because there's no server-side rendering. And this guy heard that this technology is great. Now, there are three sets of publishers in terms of their affordability of technology, affordability of CTOs. A good CTO today comes from 80 lakhs to 1.2 crores. Now, if you don't want to go that way, there are different kind of technologies available. The first technology you need to choose is a technology which has a developer ecosystem. For example, WordPress. 60% of internet websites are on WordPress. Not the traffic, but the websites. Now, the developer ecosystem is huge for WordPress. Okay, and WordPress has one vulnerability, that it has some issues in terms of hack. That I'll tell you in one line. You make sure your WordPress is write protected is off. You are not able to change plugins via the, where the, users put in the data. And you run WordPress just like you run a proper site and do all the builds via GitHub. Then WordPress is unhackable because there is no technology, no plugin you can change over there. So WordPress is your number one technology. Whether you are a small publisher starting out, whether you are a middle publisher, whether you are a very big publisher like Indian Express, like News 18, like First Post running WordPress and running 70, 80,000 concurrent users and millions of users. If you are really worried about hosting, although hosting technologies have become very cheap, if you feel that you do not have a DevOps person, then you can go for WP Engine, Pressable. Pressable is also a WordPress company, and they are the second rank to WordPress VIP. So you can use Pressable, you can use WP Engine, you can use Kinsta. Some of these services are managed WordPress, and you don't have to blink an eye. And there is one more technology which I'll talk about, which is an even better technology, but that's more for magazine publishers who are not publishing real-time content. But I think that I'll talk about when my turn comes next.
All right. So what you're saying is that based on your interaction, especially in the digital ecosystem, CMS and picking the right CMS is particularly where there has been a lot of challenge, and that's something that the publishers need to pay a lot of attention to.
Very quickly, in publisher business, product and tech is commoditized. The article pages need to be stable, not innovated. The product management team's excitement kills the publisher business because he wants to add something or the other which is not required in article page. So please ask your product management teams to calm down and try to hire as less product managers as possible for a publisher business. Because there's not enough work for them, my bad. Unless, you are building an election data product or some other product which is heavily on data. But whatever said and done till now, at least in India or even in US, whether it's Wall Street Journal, New York Times, they are not become a data business still. If they have a data business, that's Market Watch. That is a separate website itself. So when it comes to the business, which is clearly publisher business, article page is your number one page. Take care of your article page. And my favorite article page is axios.com, axios.com. Phenomenal website, one of the best user experience in terms of mobile phones. That has a white background and a black text. No paragraph bigger than 3 lines. When it's bigger than 3 lines, they introduce bullets. And the designing is done by journalists by, making the phrases bold where they want to. So it's more curated.
Fantastic. So real example of website. I see a lot of people taking out phones and checking it out. Now I want to come to Jay, and Jay runs Shareaholic. He's the founder. Shareaholic is a social sharing application, a product which is available across more than 300,000 websites across the world. And so when it comes to social sharing, he's sitting on a huge amount of data. And Jay, I would like to just bring your inputs here on what are the trends that you see vis-a-vis social sharing. There's Facebook, and then there's today now a lot of publishers then moved on to Instagram and now TikTok, and So, and you're looking at publishers around the world, not just in India, right? So it'd be great if you can share your insights on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I get into that, I have one comment on what Sandeep was saying. So I think publishers there's a macro trend right now where third-party cookies are going away. So in 2024, Google is going to be getting rid of third-party cookies. Now, traditionally, the online advertising business has been built on top of third-party cookies. When third-party cookies go away, first-party data becomes king. Like, that's the really only data that's going to be available at scale when aggregated for advertising. And that's where publishers, there's an opportunity that's opening up for larger publishers to play the data game going into 2024. So that's where CDPs come in also. So one thing that's been really encouraging to hear today by all the speakers, I think everyone's talking about data, everyone's talking about the user and collecting data on the user. We'll start thinking about like how can you monetize that for online advertising, because next year is going to be critical because third-party data is going to be less relevant technically because of the actions of Google and regulation and whatnot. So that's an opportunity. In terms of, so you can have a product manager for that, maybe.
You should get piano for that. The world's number one technology for CD. Your product manager will not understand advertising.
In terms of social, the trends, so just to reiterate, we power functionality on about 300,000 websites, and we collect data from 300,000 websites. So we see basically what's going on the web. And in terms of trends that we're seeing, social SEO traffic is still number one in terms of the volume of traffic coming to these 300,000 websites. So it's about a third that we see, so about 33, 34%. If you're below 34%, I would say start thinking about like how do you get your numbers up to 34%. If you're above 34%, you're on trend. Social tends to be about 15% of referral traffic. Now, it used to be a lot higher 2-3 years ago. So again, if you're above 15%, you're doing pretty well. If you're below, think about how can you get it above to that 15%-ish level. Facebook, so if you start cutting up social in terms of where the traffic is coming from, Facebook is by far the number one amongst the sites that we have in our network. Still. So about 70% of social traffic coming into the sites that we have is coming from Facebook. The second highest, if I remember correctly, it's Twitter. Sorry, it's Pinterest. So Pinterest is number 2, Twitter is number 3, and YouTube is number 4. And what we've seen is since Elon Musk took over Twitter, referrals have gone up from Twitter to websites. So maybe just his activism is leading to more engagement on Twitter, perhaps. And lastly, what we have seen is, so this is a very tactical observation. So Twitter is trying to make a big push towards subscriptions for consumers, so Twitter Blue. And what we are seeing is there's been a decrease of traffic from Twitter to websites in the last 2 months or so. And this is the time period where they've been playing around with the algorithms at Twitter and giving more preference to the folks who have been subscribing versus the free users. So anecdotally, perhaps it's worth signing up for Twitter Blue because they seem to be getting perhaps more distribution.
Interesting. I think publishers could potentially get a jump on that. Sandeep, one of the things that you have also sort of managed throughout your career is, how do publishers ultimately drive a lot of traffic, right? I mean, particularly when we talk about magazine publishers in the digital world. Yeah, they have great content, very solid base. They have the connects with the agency and the advertisers, but bringing the traffic in an effective manner with engaged audiences is always been a challenge, right? And I think this is your domain expertise, so would love to get some inputs from you on that.
See, look at it. I mean, magazine are the generation of Bob Dylan, right? Times they are changing. So I hope they are ready to change with the times. So the content which is consumed, believe you me, is the more magazine content today in Google Discover, which is the number one traffic source in the country. In late 2021, when Google introduced Google Discover, the Hindi sites in the country reached the 100 million users. Live Hindustan, Aaj Tak. The numbers which were never seen before. And after a few months, Google Discover democratized that a little bit. Now you see different publishers out there. So those traffics have come down to 70 million. Now earlier, the difference between search and discover, between the search console itself, was used to be 180 and 20. Now discover is a 70% of traffic. Now how is it 70% of traffic? Your last 300-400 million users are not technology savvy. Okay, they are dependent upon the Android ecosystem. They don't even understand in India that you have a Chrome browser. So they open a Google app. You understand what I'm saying? And even at the lock screen level, they are getting recommendations in terms of content. That content recommendation is Google Discover, and that is driving some heartland traffic of 600 million users for Hindi language. And very, very strong users for Tamil language, Telugu language, Marathi language, and Bengali language, which are the 4 other big languages. And most of this content is time-independent content. Most of this content is that magazine content. So this content can really build a huge traffic for you. Huge traffic as in, today we don't see any magazine in Comscore in terms of publisher traffic, but magazines can really rule this kind of traffic, and you don't need to churn out like Bhaskar or Jagran does, like 600-700 articles a day in terms of their digital teams, and obviously they ingest 3,000 to 4,000 articles from their prints editions. But those hyper-local content does not get traffic. The traffic is driven by these discover hacks, small things which people want to know about Aadhaar card, about Majdoor card, about recipes, about how to make money, about postal schemes, about all those other schemes. So choice of topics is a very important thing. Second is how to make sure that the Google discovery is good. Now, Google discoveries, the holy grail of Google is time spent. And I can prove it because one of our clients was Doubtnut. Now, Doubtnut is a site which has videos, just like Sheg in US, who help out in that homework kind of thing. Doubtnut has some 8 million videos, but their technology was built on React.js, and Google could see nothing in their cache. Doubtnut cache used to be blank. So Google's cache of Doubtnut was blank. Despite that blank cache, they were getting 12 million users from Google. Why would Google send traffic to blank cache? Because they had videos, they had time spent of over 4 minutes. So increasing time spent is on the page is the holy grail for SEO. I will explain what you need to do. So there is a concept of dwell time. So here is the SERP, the search engine result page, where you search Rahul Gandhi's conviction. And somebody clicked on a Times of India URL. So Google is the agent who sent that person to Times of India. The person was dissatisfied and came back within 15 seconds. If you are Google product manager, what would you do to Times of India URL? You will derank it. Correct? Logical enough? This is it. This is the algo of Google. Basically, higher time spent is equal to, higher Google traffic. But how will higher time spent come? First of all, your page should load faster. That is where Google talks about page speed insights and page experience and all the other important metric if your page is not loading. Second metric is time spent, which is the key. And if you want to drive time spent, you need to create written formats like Axios and add videos. Video increases more time spent than the text. So embed as much as possible. Today, for example, Rocket Boys episode of Sony Live are already put free on YouTube. And you can embed the full episode over there. All the highlights of all the matches are put on YouTube. You can embed full, highlights over there. I can share, I don't know how I can share, but, please search for an article of Abrar Ahmed 7-wicket haul at debut. Abrar Ahmed is a Pakistani bowler who did 7 wickets on debut. Now, would you like to read about 7 wickets or would you like to see those 7 wickets and see who's this new spinner who wears spectacles just like Todd Murphy who also did 7 wickets on debut? You like to see that. And NDTV journalist has curated all 7 wickets which are all posted as videos by PCB on Twitter. So PCB Twitter has all 7 videos. He's embed all 7 videos and say, watch all the 7 wickets of Abrar Ahmed. That is ranking over Abrar Ahmed because you are able to see all 7 wickets. You don't want to read about recipes. You want to see Nisha Madhulika and learn from her. So embedding Nisha Madhulika or Kanika's kitchen or Heber's kitchen is not,
Right.
It doesn't take any money. So if somebody's created the content, please steal their lunch. You know what I'm saying?
Great example, and you make it sound very simple, but I think there is so much nuance to understanding a lot of these algorithms and technologies, and I think that's what a lot of the teams sort of perhaps lack in a consistent basis. But if you're at it, you do see results. Jay, we touched upon this earlier, and I think throughout the day this has been a theme, and we spoke about first-party data, right? Now, you're not only helping publishers collect a lot of first-party data, but also in some ways helping them monetize it, right? Can you talk a little bit more in detail about what are the ways in which publishers are able to use their first-party data, and then also how are they effectively able to monetize it?
Sure. So first-party data can be used for 2 things, basically. One is, but what is first-party data? First-party data is data on your visitors that you've collected directly from them. So things like their age, what are they interested in, what are they consuming on your website, things that they've told you very specifically what they're about. In terms of monetization, what you can use it for are things like what the previous panelists and speakers have spoken about, is segmentation. You can segment your audience based on first-party data, use that segmentation to better target content, better relevancy, which ultimately leads to better monetization, more people signing up for your service or for your subscriptions. So segmentation is a big deal, which first-party data enables you to do. Now, what can you use with segmentation? Sell more subscriptions, send better targeted content, which leads to higher engagement in your communities. Figuring out what the communities should be in the first place. Using first-party data to figure that out is a perfect example. And then next year, you will be using it also for advertising. So if you want to play in the advertising ecosystem, or if you have ads on your website, use that data, give it to your advertisers to better target who they want to target on your website and across the web.
Yeah, I have a follow-up, but essentially what you're saying is that particularly from next year, today at this conference, one of the themes is about communities, building communities, and so on, but what you're really saying is that the building block of community is the first-party data, and actually a lot of us are possibly not, managing that in an effective enough manner. And so where is a good place to start? And also if you can perhaps touch upon, the personalization aspect of it, because I think when we start looking at communities and how to nurture communities, that becomes, I think, very relevant.
Yeah, so personalization, to do personalization, you need to know what someone is interested in. what to personalize something to. So that's why first-party data is the foundation of anything that you do with personalization. And then, personalization leads to content discovery, which leads to more engagement. In terms of tooling, typically you'll probably, sign up for a CDP, a customer data platform, to push all your data into a platform that makes it easily queryable and accessible. I think one mistake that a lot of companies do is, they'll collect all this data, but they'll collect it in a way, or they'll store it in a way that's not accessible, or it's in 5 different silos that makes it kind of useless or not as valuable. So, there are platforms out there specifically built for this that you can send all your data to, which then your marketing team can easily query and answer questions in a rapid way. So it shouldn't take days to get answers from the data. It should be hours, if not minutes. And that technology exists in the form of CDPs today.
Right, right. All right, we have about 4 minutes left, so I'll have one question for both of you. And the question is, and I think is a good lead into the next session as well. In terms of the editorial teams that are out there, recently there's been a lot of talk about using AI tools, right? And good, bad, I'm not sure, it's too early perhaps, but there is various productivity that is already starting to get generated out of it. Since both of you are, of course, expert or experienced hands in this industry, would love to hear both of your thoughts on should editorial teams and newsrooms be using AI, and if yes, what are the ways in which that is going to evolve?
So very quickly on the CDPs, I think Jay is making a lot of sense, but I just want to caution you on a few things. As soon as, there was a Dilbert game, as soon as you hear the 5 things which are, said in a meeting, you call bullshit, So as soon as you hear the word data cohorts, the cohort word is a total bullshit word, If people say you'll see data cohorts, you'll see this, you'll see that. First of all, Google committed that they're going to shut down the third-party cookie in 2022, and they didn't stand by their word. And Mozilla and Safari has already done it. Why they are not doing it, or why they are doing it? They are not doing it because their billions of dollars, as Jay said, is dependent upon the third-party cookie. Otherwise, how will they chase you from Make My Trip and make you feel deja vu in terms of what you are searching comes right in front of banners, right in front of you in form of banners. Second thing is that who knows whether they're going to do it in another 2 years. And they are introducing something called FLOC, F-L-O-C. So that has been dumped by GDPR in Europe, but they'll find new ways of something masquerading as a third-party cookie. And why is Google doing all this? Because of all the class action suits which are happening in US courts about monopoly. Believe you me, US ad ecosystem is a bigger monopoly than Google search ecosystem. And the search ecosystem is so worried about ChatGPT, so we can come there. So my point is, don't listen. I mean, see, you want to sound fancy, or you want to make money and impress upon VCs and do a IPO, that is your choice. I mean, I took that choice 5 years ago. I don't sound fancy, very difficult to explain what I do, but I make a lot of money, I mean, shamelessly speaking, but I'm not able to have a designation. So it is up to you. What do you want? You want to sound fancy that I'm doing a CDP project with data codes. If you really want to sound fancy, then at least go to the best. Piano is the best company in the world doing this work. And when you want to do data, first-party data targeting, you at least need 200 million unique cookies. Because on a very small database, since the direct traffic is very limited, if you like Times of India, Columbia project, why it failed? Columbia is the biggest CDP project this country has seen, and 400 million users. But when they picked up a campaign of real estate lovers, they couldn't service the campaign because those guys would not return at the time when the campaign was supposed to be running. So it doesn't work. So, but before coming to that, I don't, yeah,
AI. Sorry, we're running out of time. No, I would love your inputs on tools, AI, that, editors
See,
and editorial.
ChatGPT, I've studied in and out, and ChatGPT 4, I didn't get the time to study. But ChatGPT is, and I've done a lot of work in AI personally writing algos. So it is a collection of a lot of data. It's great for my daughter's assignments, but it's not good for writing articles. Unfortunately, the universities are saying that we'll check the assignments back with ChatGPT, and if you copy it from ChatGPT, we'll fail you. So, and they are making a lot of mistakes. Last, I asked one of my journalists, I funded a cricket site very recently, to take some data from ChatGPT, and he took the data and they said India has beaten Australia by 13 wickets. I mean, so just be a little more careful about ChatGPT. And if you want to see how ChatGPT really works and how it takes references, please use ChatGPT powered Bing. Please sign up for it because there it starts giving references, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is a content collected from publishers, given to publishers to use. So it is somebody else's content and which Google might take as a plagiarized content. Last few years, Google is throwing core algo updates on EAT standards, which one of the updates came on March 15th. And your site traffic will plummet 80% if you use this kind of content on a regular basis. So my suggestion is stick to human beings when it comes to journalism.
All right. Jay, your thoughts?
See, ChatGPT is early in journalism. I think, you know, if it evolves to a state where it can be used as an assistant to journalists, why not? If it elevates their art, why not? It's yet to be seen.
All right. Okay. Well, there's a lot more, frankly, in terms of questions because, you know, when we talk about tech, you know, one can actually go on for a few hours. But time's up, and I really want to thank the panelists here today for sharing their insights. I hope it was insightful for all of you also. And if there are any questions, then we'd be happy to take it after this session outside. Thank you.